This is GFree Radio. Here's your host, Peter Stewart.
Hello, this is Peter Stewart. Thank you so much for listening again this week to the GFree Radio Show, and thank you to all of the new listeners who've joined us in the last couple of weeks since we were at the Allergy and Free From show in the north of England in Liverpool. Great to have you along, and another packed programme for you this week. Our main interview this week is with Lisa Cantkier, a health and wellness writer and creator of the Gluten Free Find and the GFree Smart Stores. Oh, and she's a lifelong coeliac. Now, I hope that you always find time to be able to listen to all of our episodes in their entirety, but we realise that in this time-pressured world you may not be able to. But I do urge you and advise you to listen to my chat with Lisa. Now, I talk for a living. I've been a professional broadcaster for more than 20 years, and Lisa left me momentarily speechless with her coeliac story, and I'm sure it'll have a profound effect on you as well. I didn't quite know what Lisa was going to tell me, and my feet are cold because she blew my socks off. I urge you to listen to my chat with Lisa. Okay, also we take a look at the first patient trials for a new treatment for celiac disease and the importance of calcium in our diets. Now, the bone-building minerals not just found in milk and yoghurt. We've got a great rundown of other places that calcium is hidden away, and of course eating more of those foods could make you more healthy. Plus, a report in Psychology Today headlined "Gluten-free, fad, friend or foe?" used the word orthorexia. We had to check out what that meant. And we continue our series on unusual grains, looking at teff. And we hear from two companies who use it in their products. All that and a little bit more on the GFree Radio Show. So that incredible story with Lisa in a few moments' time. First of all, I'd like to bring you this story. It's an update on something that we've spoken about in the past on the programme, and it's about first patient trials for a new potential treatment for celiac disease. Now, bear with us because this is a little bit complicated, and I don't mean to judge your understanding of it. I'm merely highlighting my own lack of understanding when things get quite so technical, quite so medical as well. But let me run through what this release has said from alvinepharma.com and their press release, because, as I say, it is a little bit technical and hopefully we won't get too tongue-tied. But Alvine Pharmaceuticals Incorporated, a biopharmaceutical company focused on the treatment of autoimmune and gastrointestinal diseases, has announced that the first randomised study patient was dosed in the Celiaction study as a phase 2B study of its lead clinical candidate, which they're calling ALV-003, which is in development for the treatment of patients with celiac disease. ALV-003 is an orally administered mixture of two gluten-specific proteases shown in vitro to degrade gluten, the primary immunologic trigger for celiac disease. The Celiaction study, a phase 2 randomised double-blind placebo-controlled dose-ranging clinical study, will evaluate the safety and efficacy of ALV-003 at different dose levels administered over a 12-week period in approximately 500 patients in the US, Canada and Europe. The results of this clinical study will significantly further our understanding of celiac disease, and we strongly encourage the community of celiac disease patients to volunteer to enrol in the trial, so says Dr. Peter H.R. Green, Professor of Clinical Medicine at Columbia University College of Physicians and Surgeons and Director of Celiac Disease Centre at Columbia University. Well, all that sounds quite interesting, quite hopeful, doesn't it? Do you agree? I'm sure you do. And you can learn a little bit more about ALV-003 via alvinepharma.com. That's A-L-V-I-N-E Pharma, all one word, Alvine Pharma, P-H-A-R-M-A.com. And it's all interesting stuff. What it actually says a little bit further on is that in a phase 2A study, ALV003 was shown to attenuate gluten-induced intestinal mucosal injury in celiac disease patients undergoing a daily gluten challenge. ALV003 is being developed as a potential treatment for celiac disease patients in conjunction with a gluten-free diet and is currently in phase 2B clinical development. As I say, I barely understand a word of that apart from the odd and, in, on. You get my drift. I think the overall feeling is that that's a positive thing. Don't get excited. It's pigeon steps. You used to do pigeon steps in the schoolyard, in the school playground. It's pigeon steps, but we're getting there. It's hopeful, but don't get too excited. Years away, guys. Okay, this is Peter Stewart. It's the GFree Radio Show. Thanks again if you are one of our new listeners. We're going to be talking Teff a little bit later on, and I've been speaking to a couple of companies, one which provides the grain itself and another one who provides food which is cooked with the grain. And I must say, the taste of Teff, which we'll describe in a little bit more detail a little bit later on, is really unusual in a good way. We like it. We like it a lot, actually. But first of all, and also we've got that item on how you can get some more calcium in your diet, because you don't have to drink gallons and gallons of milk. In fact, that might be a problem for you if you also have other allergies, but it's hidden away, it's tucked away in other foods and vegetables as well. So talking about how important calcium is for the diet of a celiac patient in a few moments' time. But I really am so thrilled and pleased to bring you this following interview, which we did with Lisa Cantkier, and she's from Gluten Free Find. So she set up Gluten Free Find, and also she's a co-creator of GlutenFree Smart Store.com. And she's in North America, she's in Canada, and it was really fantastic to catch up with her a few weeks ago at her home in Toronto. First of all, because we haven't spoken to many people in and around Canada. So in the first part of our two-part interview, we're going to be hearing about the background to Lisa. In part two, we're going to hear a bit more about going free in Canada as well. But as I said at the top of the show, I would really urge you to listen to this. I mean, I don't want to give too much away about what is upcoming. I don't want to set it up too much. But boy, oh boy, when Lisa told me her life story, I nearly had to pick myself up off the floor. I hope that you're listening to this and you can listen to it in its entirety, and you may just want to make sure that whatever you're doing, you can perhaps put it down for a few minutes. You'll hear what develops as we hear from Lisa Cantkier on the GFree Radio Show.
My website is GlutenFreeFind.com, and it's an online resource directory where people can access information about businesses and just about every topic under the sun that deals with gluten-free. And the focus is on healthy living and healthy find. So as you know, there are many different types of products out there on the market, whether it be in Europe or North America, but only a certain percentage of them are actually healthy and good for us.
And this is the point, isn't it? There's a view with some that GF is healthy, but that's not necessarily true, is it?
Oh, absolutely. So sugar is added to so many products, not only for the taste, but also as a preservative. So there's lots of added ingredients to products, and therefore they're all not as healthy as we would like them to be in terms of, when it comes to prepackaged foods.
Obviously not really day-to-day foods, more of them are treats, but you make sure that you stock the healthier foods, is that right?
Right. So on our website, we're really promoting the companies that offer products free of refined sugars, flours, starches. We're promoting companies that are GMO-free, organic, eco-friendly, good for our overall health.
Because more and more people seem to be diagnosed with various food allergies, don't they? And I'm wondering, Lisa, what do you put that down to? Is that what we're eating, or more stress, or chemicals, or pollutants in the air, or GMO crops? What do you think it is?
Well, certainly much more research is needed to answer that very difficult question, but my feeling is it's probably a combination of all of the factors you've just mentioned. I recently wrote an article about and did some research about GMO wheat and its impact on our bodies, and how wheat has been modifying people, so to speak. So I do believe that genetically modified foods and environmental factors probably are playing a significant role in some of the developing allergies, such as gluten intolerance and sensitivity.
And the more natural foods that you mentioned there, are they readily available in the stores, the supermarkets, the grocery shops and shelves in Canada?
Well, we do have a good number of food producers and manufacturers in Canada. We're not all country landscape. We do have lots of major cities and lots of industry. And, you know, it is easier for food companies to use science and formulas that require or call for, ingredients to preserve them, such as sugar and, other ingredients that are not extremely healthy. However, it's definitely possible, and there are many companies that are taking different routes. So there are other sweeteners, as you know, on the market that are far more healthy than refined sugars. And companies are becoming more and more aware of the demand for healthy products, and I think they're making more of a conscious effort to produce foods that are, more nutritionally valuable.
So you've got an expertise in food and nutrition. Tell us about your story, because this is amazing. Everyone's story is unique, is totally different, but yours particularly so. And without putting perhaps too fine a point on it, you were almost given up for dead at one point, weren't you?
Yes, I was diagnosed with celiac disease at a time when the statistic was 1 in 4,000 or greater, and it was in the late 70s. I was a toddler, failing to thrive, about a year and a half old, and I was not absorbing my foods. I was just literally wasting away, and I was in the hospital for nearly 2 months before specialists could determine what was wrong with me. I was actually diagnosed with terminal cancer, and I was literally on my way out the door. And one day, with my meal, there was a banana. I chose to eat the banana, nothing else on the plate, and it was the first time that I had eaten a meal and not gotten sick. So the nurses had documented that, and then doctors finally put 2 and 2 together and realized this may be a food issue.
And I was reading earlier about your story, and you mentioned the phrase, the big C, little c battle, and I've not heard that phrase before.
Yes, that's right. That's what they called it back then in the 70s, because so many children and toddlers, kids my age, were mistakenly diagnosed with cancer. Because we presented, as someone who's not absorbing your nutrients, with diet and food being of such importance to every aspect of our health and every system of our body, my body was falling apart because I was not absorbing nutrients at all. My small intestine was just breaking down.
So you're saying that in the late 70s and early 80s, before celiac disease was properly being diagnosed, some children were pumped with drugs in the mistaken belief that they had cancer?
We don't have any actual research or data, but this is what many doctors and health professionals speculate, that it was extremely common for my situation to happen, and I'm sure it happened prior to that time as well. Who knows how many children and toddlers actually lost their life because of undiagnosed celiac disease? A lot of experts believe there were many across North America and probably in Europe as well.
That is truly shocking. I've not heard of that at all before. Gosh, I mean, you must count yourself pretty damn lucky.
Extremely, and I believe that little girl who came so close to crossing the line of passing away really had a purpose. And so I really try my best to educate people about celiac disease and gluten-free living to the best of my ability.
And first of all, your mum stepped in, championing you, obviously, and helping you and others like you.
That's right. She helped bring about the first support groups for celiacs in Toronto where we were living, and as well as bringing the first gluten-free products to mainstream grocery store shelves. And at that time, there was actually only one brand in Toronto and the surrounding area. So we've had the wonderful opportunity to launch a second site, an online store with TV chef Kathy Smart, and we're partnered with Allergic Solution, which is a baking mix manufacturer for allergen-free baking mixes, and we've launched Canada's only online gluten-free store. A lot of people are quite surprised to see how many companies there are out there right now. That's probably the biggest shock to so many people that lived my story back in the day, to see how the gluten-free diet has become so needed and how there is so much more choice now than there ever was.
Your mum must be so proud of you.
I hope so. I believe so, yes.
Lisa Cantkier, and I'm sure that you had a similar reaction to me when you heard part of the interview there that we held with her. Part 2 of that interview is next week on GFree Radio, and in the meantime, you can get in touch with Lisa via GlutenFreeFind.com. On Twitter, that's at GlutenFreeFind, or GlutenFreeSmartStore.com. On Twitter, that's GFree Smart Store.
This is GFree Radio.
And in a few moments' time, we're going to be hearing a bit more about that report from Psychology Today, entitled Gluten Free Fad, Friend or Foe. We're not going to bring you the whole article because it does run to several pages, but there's one word which jumped out at us when we were reading that earlier on in the week and doing a little bit of research for the programme. Orthorexia. O-R-T-H-O-R-E-X-I-A. Orthorexia. Do you know what that is? If not, we'll bring that to you in the next few minutes. But and also a bit more about Teff as well, as we've mentioned a couple of times. But first, what about this there calcium? Because everyone knows, hopefully, that if you're a celiac, you do stand to have problems with calcium intake and bone density, and therefore osteoporosis, and calcium is needed. I mean, we've known this since we were knee-high to the proverbial grasshopper, haven't we? That we need calcium to build strong, dense bones in younger years so we can prevent osteoporosis a little bit later on in life. And in fact, osteoporosis apparently literally means porous bones. It's a thinning and weakening of the bones due to a loss of mineral-containing material. It affects 1 in 2 females, 1 in 3 males over the age of 60. And according to foodwatch.com.au, more than 60% of Australian women consume less than the recommended intake of calcium. So we thought we'd do a little bit of research and find out what the recommended intake is and where you can find some more calcium without drinking gallons of the white stuff. But first of all, this report from foodwatch.com.au talks about several other biological reasons why you must get enough calcium, and they are: 1, you must have enough calcium to make your muscles move. Now, to know that muscle contraction is regulated by the level of calcium. Muscles contract and relax because of rapidly changing concentrations of calcium inside your muscle cells. Too much or too little calcium in your blood may cause muscular symptoms such as cramps and pins and needles due to disruption of the calcium cycle. I love that hopefully while you're you're learning stuff here. I am, certainly, and the whole team here at GFree Radio. We're learning stuff. All this is an adventure. It's an education week by week. Also in this report,
2.
you need calcium so your blood will clot properly. Whenever you cut yourself, your body initiates a complex cascade of reactions involving platelets and enzymes, calcium and structural proteins to form clots to stop the blood flowing.
3.
You need calcium to lower your blood pressure, which, as we know, is extremely important to overall health.
4.
You need calcium for fluid balance, because calcium is a key electrolyte.
5.
You need calcium to combat colon cancer. It's a protective nutrient against colon or bowel cancer. It's believed to work by either binding to or neutralising potential cancer-causing compounds found in bowel contents. Now, what are the recommended levels? Well, 800 to 1,000 milligrams of calcium or thereabouts is recommended each day. 1,300 milligrams for women after menopause when your chances of osteoporosis rise. It can be pretty hard reaching that recommended dietary intake. The RDI, obviously you can't beat milk and yoghurt and cheese. But there are other things as well as those. And, you know, I mean, obviously you can get calcium, milk in tea or coffee, and those kinds of things. Maybe a smoothie made with a bit of milk. That kind of stuff, which is all good things. But when I was at my recent celiac meeting that I have locally, regionally, where I am, I got handed a list by Christina Zaremba, who's a registered dietitian in the UK, in Surrey, and as well as the milk and cheese and yoghurt, she pointed out some other things: custard, rice pudding, for example. So don't forget, we're looking at 1,000 to 1,500 milligrams of calcium a day. So half a can of custard, 250 milligrams of calcium. Rice pudding, similar. Sardines with bones, half a can, another 250. All of these 250. Steamed tofu, 50 grams. White chocolate. Hey, that's good. Got a bit of white chocolate on there. Sesame seeds, 40 grams of sesame seeds, another 250. Calcium-enriched orange juice, a large tumbler, 300 milligrams of calcium, which is really, really good. But also some of these have less calcium, it does have to be said, than the ones I've just mentioned. But quickly to run through these: curly kale, spinach, stewed rhubarb, watercress, red kidney beans, French beans, baked beans, dried apricots, currants, olives, orange, hummus, broccoli, Brazil nuts, dairy ice cream, single cream, shelled prawns, and tap water as well. Tap water. She's saying that where I live, tap water, 500 millilitres of tap water, 75 milligrams of calcium. That is great stuff. And also, according to fitday.com, here's a few more items, some of which I've mentioned. I mean, vegetables are not often thought of as a source for calcium, but if you're clever, you can get your entire day's worth from just a few servings of certain high calcium greens. Soybeans, a cup of those, 175 milligrams. Almonds, they're good to snack on, aren't they? I've got a little pot which I often take to the day job, and often have little nuts and seeds and dried fruit and so on in there. Almonds, 23 nuts, another 75 milligrams. What else we got here? Oranges, half cup of oranges, 52 milligrams. Spinach, broccoli. I heard a kid in the week say, "I love broccoli." You don't often hear that. "I love broccoli because they look like trees." Sesame seeds, a quarter of a cup of those, 351 milligrams of calcium. Spend the rest of the day picking those out from between your teeth. Brazil nuts, 2 ounces of those. 12 nuts, another 90 milligrams. I'm not doing too badly. Celery, not a big fan of celery. 2 cups of raw celery, 81 milligrams. So it can be done, can't it? But if we're looking at 1,000 to 1,500, guys, then if we have a tumbler of water, that's 250, a yoghurt, another 250. So we're not doing too badly there. We've got 500 already. We're looking for another 1,000. And I guess then it comes from all those other fruits and veg, doesn't it? I should be eating more fruit and veg. I really should. I really have to force myself. I know that's a really bad thing to say, but there you go. That's the size of it. Okay. Well, got that couple of interviews with a couple of companies who cook with and sell teff. Now, I don't know whether you're familiar with teff, but it's not a new grain. It's one of these what they call an ancient grain. It's been around for centuries. It's much more common in places like Ethiopia, and we'll continue our chat about different kind of grains in a few minutes' time. But I wanted to bring this report to you. It's from Psychology Today, and it's called Gluten Free, Fad, Friend or Foe. And it's got a particular word that jumped out at us because we didn't really know what it meant. Kind of got a few ideas from the sense of the article from psychologytoday.com. And it goes on to say, is it possible that a gluten-free diet in the absence of celiac disease, okay, so these are for the GFreeers among us, is a code phrase for what can really be an eating disorder, orthorexia? Spelt it earlier. Here it is again. ORTHOREXIA. Those who have an unhealthy obsession, I'm quoting this article, with otherwise healthy eating may be suffering from orthorexia nervosa, a term which literally means fixation on righteous eating. Orthorexia starts out as an innocent attempt to eat more healthfully, but orthorexics become fixated on food quality and purity. They become consumed with what and how much to eat and how to deal with slip-ups. An ironclad will is needed to maintain this rigid eating style. Every day is a chance to eat right, be good, rise above others in dietary prowess, and self-punish if temptation wins, usually through stricter eating, fasts and exercise. Self-esteem becomes wrapped up in the purity of orthorexics' diet, and they sometimes feel superior to others, especially in regard to food intake. You can tell why it's in Psychology Today, can't you? Dieting sets us up for more dieting. Restricting food sets us up for craving the food we restrict and often leads to binging. Rigid eating without medical necessity is often linked to eating disorders. Using food in an attempt to seek emotional equilibrium, or when diet or body image is relied upon as the primary or sole approach to finding self-esteem and feeling acceptable, some, including me, says Judy Shield, PhD, call this an eating disorder. It's a long article. I've just picked up some paragraphs which I thought were particularly interesting. Psychologytoday.com, and that article entitled Gluten Free, Fad, Friend or Foe. Nearing the end of this week's show, but I really wanted to bring you a couple of other interviews, specifically about teff, because we're continuing our series on the different G-free grains this week, and teff is one of the tiniest seed grains. It's gluten-free, as I say. It's full of vital nutrients and minerals. It's from Ethiopia, essentially. It comes in ivory and dark. It's been around for centuries. But you know what? It's only lately that it's come back into fashion in the North American diet and across Europe as well, due to the rise in celiac disease, gluten intolerance, and also that never-ending quest, if you like, for healthy, tasty, G-free grains. And we mentioned calcium a little bit earlier on. Teff is a great source of calcium and iron and protein and fibre and B vitamins. It's apparently a good source for diabetics as well. And just ahead of our couple of chats, this from foodsforbetterhealth.com, where 4 is the digit 4. When cooking teff, add half a cup of teff grain to 2 cups of water with a pinch of salt. Bring to a boil, simmer in a covered pot for 15 to 20 minutes or until the water is absorbed. Stir and let stand uncovered for 5 minutes. It sounds a little bit like the kind of quinoa cooking process, doesn't it? Or cook teff as a breakfast cereal. It's got a nutty taste, often also makes it great for baking cookies, muffins and pancakes and so on. Enough from me. Let's hear from a couple of teff companies. First of all, Tobias Teffs, Sophia has been telling me a bit more about this ancient grain.
Teff is one of the smallest grain on earth. It's the smallest actually, as you can see it in here as well. And it's a gluten and sugar-free grain. But apart from being gluten and sugar-free, it has got, the iron content is extremely high. It's a substitute for folic acid for pregnant ladies, as well as for athletes. The iron is extremely high in it, and it contains 17 times the calcium of any other grain. So the nutritional value, the nutritional benefit from the teff is more than being a gluten-free only.
It sounds almost like a kind of superfood. And looking at the grain here, is this how it grows in the wild?
This is how it grows. That is before harvesting.
So it's like a corn or a barley, but it looks
like
more like a grass.
It's more like a grass. It does actually. And then once it is harvested, the grain, as you can see, is the smallest grain, and that is very difficult to hunt. And that obviously, the nutrients value is intact because it's very difficult to hunt.
And it's not new, is it? This hasn't been developed. It's not some kind of GM product.
No, it's new to the Western Hemisphere. But in the eastern part of Africa, it's been consumed for the last thousands and thousands of years. So it's not exactly new to the planet Earth, but it is new to this part of the world, yes it is.
And do you know what? I was speaking to a baker at one of the other stalls a bit earlier on. I said I was coming to see you, and I said that when I've had teff muffins in the past, the taste is really quite extraordinary in a really good way because it's a little bit different.
Yes.
And she hadn't heard about it, so it's a bit difficult trying to get the word out to bakers and other producers. Hey, why do you use teff?
Well, teff, you can use it not only for muffins, we use it for bread, for cakes, for cookies. As I said, because it's relatively new, about 3 or 4 years ago, if you say teff, nobody will know what you're talking about. But now at least we're getting there. People are getting more, be aware of it. Once they know what they use it for, we have as well bakeries who buy it from us. And then you can, but the reason is it's the bread that I use, I don't mix it with any other things. There are other people who mix it with potato starch or any other, but we want to bring it as it is because of the nutritional value. And that is, it's like a rye bread. It's like a sour bread. But with muffins, it's, if you sweeten it, obviously it's very tasty, but we want to avoid any kind of sweet.
And what properties does it have? Does it react in the same way in the cooking process?
It doesn't exactly react in the. It doesn't really change apart from its color, which is any gluten-free product changes color once it's cooked. It doesn't really change anything at all.
Okay, and you can make anything that you would, breaks, cakes, biscuits, that kind of thing?
We make biscuits out of it, bread, cakes, pancakes, name it. And as you can see as well, the cereals are now on the new products.
So tell me about the reaction at the stall today, because you're selling the cereal, which is a little bit like a kind of a puffed rice or a Rice Krispie kind of thing. It's that kind of size and shape and that kind of flavour.
Yes, one of them is a puffed teff, which is the grain surface puff. The other one, what we call it teffios, is similar like any ordinary, like Cheerios, like any ordinary, with the exception, of course, this is purely the teff ones. And the reaction today from, obviously, it is the right place. It's a gluten-free from market, and most of the people who are coming is specifically targeting the free from market. So it's a very positive, feedback that we have. 8 out of 10 they have tested it, and most of them they are buying it as well. But 8 out of 10 they test it, and some of them, as you said, they are new. They're asking what is teff, where does it come from? But they seem to like it as well.
Okay, and as I say, the kind of the puffed teff. I've got to get my mouth around it. The puffed teff as well is something that perhaps you can add to your own homemade muesli, isn't it?
You can make it your own homemade muesli, or you can make it like a chocolate bar or flapjack.
Yep.
Yeah, you can make it, providing it's with pure honey. You can use that one, or we can use it as well with dry fruit as a cereal on its own.
And what about things like pastries or sponges?
Yes,
Yeah,
you can, no problem. But providing, remember, it's a gluten-free product, so you have to use most probably with the bread like tapioca or zantangam, because in the absence of gluten, you need a binding agent. That is the only difference. But it does. If you go to our website, the website has got a list of recipes which we use it ourselves, and it's starting from muffins, cakes, cookies, biscuits, name it. You can do it.
So if people want to experiment a little bit, I really recommend have a look at this and give it a little test. What about your business? I mean, you seem to be the only people that I've ever come across who are importing this. So
no, in actual fact, we are the only one who are providing Teff only business. But there are other companies as well who do, who specialize with gluten-free product. They do, stock Teff as well. But as such, specializing on Teff only, we are the only one, yes. Well, we seem to get, as I said, 3-4 years ago, it was unknown. But now we're getting there. NHS is taking it on prescription. Some children's hospital as well, they are taking it now. So we're there. We're getting there.
That's Sophia from Tobiah Teff. You can follow her on Twitter at Tobiah, Tobia, Teff, Teff. And also, let's hear from Jorge from the Amazing Grain Company, who cook biscuits or cookies with Teff.
We've been working really hard trying to develop a new product, something completely different in the market. It has been a tough year with loads of money spent in getting the products, getting ready for this trade show. Hopefully we'll get good feedback, and feedback has been absolutely amazing. Loads of contacts, people is like mad buying the products, and like I said before, it has been really tough year. People are still buying some of the main brands that I don't think they are a great taste, because it's all about marketing. We are a small company, we are in this business for the last year, and hopefully we'll get paid in the next couple of years.
What is the feedback then? Because sometimes people go, Teff, what's Teff? I don't know Teff, will
Correct.
I like it?
Correct, it's one of the products that people is not well known about the Teff. Teff is a cereal that it grows in Ethiopia, and it's 4 times more proteins, fiber, magnesium and calcium than any other cereal in the world, but it's the smallest, so it's really hard to work with. So to get this consistency and this taste and this crunchy and softness, it has been really tough. But the best thing is every single person that tries the product, because it's amazing. It's amazing. I said, guys, look at the name of the company. It's Amazing Grain. And everybody says, you couldn't pick a better name. And the feedback has been absolutely very good. People taking 6-7 single biscuits. They don't want to spend the money, which is understandable, right? And then you have the same people coming back again for my daughter, for my niece, but you're not free from allergies, so you don't expect everybody to spend the money. It has been a big effort from us. We come from Northern Ireland, and we manufacture the products in Spain, and we also look after some of the brands in Spanish companies in UK. And it's all the time traveling and developing products and talk to the manufacturers and tell them, we need to change this one, we need to take this thing out, we need to add this one, we need to work with less cheese, we need to take some of the products out. They listen, and hopefully it will pay off.
Jorge from the Amazing Grain Company. Okay, just literally 1 more minute of your time, I hope, guys, if you can just bear with us, because a couple of other things to bring your attention to. First of all, the Gluten Summit is happening this coming week as we speak, as we record this. It's the first ever. It's a series of interviews with the world's leading experts on gluten-related disorders, health and nutrition. It's going to be online from November 11th to the 17th. And during the event, you'll be able to access the various interviews, 3 or 4 interviews, only to be seen. You can only watch them for a 24-hour period. I'm looking down here. I don't know the people involved, but there's probably about 20 or 30 different people involved. TheGlutenSummit.com. You can sign up. It looks as though it's going to be a terrific event, but obviously I don't know about how it is free. I don't know how they're sourcing that, how they're funding it. I suspect there may be a few other emails that come your way afterwards encouraging you to get involved with other things. TheGlutenSummit.com. That is worldwide. This is local for you if you're in the north of England. And our good friends, I would urge you to go to these gluten-free expos and shows and so on, because you can really pick up some unusual and different products that you can't get in the online stores. The Gluten-Free Food Fair is at Carlisle Racecourse, just on the edge of the fantastic Lake District in the north of England. November the 16th, and I've had a couple of bits of correspondence from Peter Foster and also Jean Foster as well. Love your show. Could you mention it? Carlisle Racecourse. from 10:30 on that date. It's the 10th annual event, 55 manufacturers, biggest year ever. Last year, more than 1,000 people visited. They got some dietitians going along and also a community pharmacist and also a local celebrity chef. John Crouch is going to be doing some cooking demos. And also all sorts of people, as I say, showing off their wares. I'm sure they usually do some fantastic taste tests and bargains there, don't they, as well? Next week in the show, we're going to be hearing more from Lisa Cantkier, continuing our chat with her, more fascinating stories from her, and a bit more about the websites as well. And also sucrin, which is a bread that we came across recently, which is really intriguing. I know I said 1 more minute, and I know it's been 1.5 minutes. I'm sorry. What can I say? Bear with. It's a bread mix, sunflower and pumpkin seeds, 1 gram of carbs per slice, no sugar, gluten or wheat, soy milk and yeast free. You just add water. You don't need to knead anything with a K. It even comes in its foil tray that you just whip it up and you pour it into the tray and pop it in the oven. I've got some. I'm going to try it in the next 7 days, and you'll hear the results of that in the next edition of GFree Radio. We'll leave you with just one more sentence from @Hillary's Eat Well. You are what you eat. So don't be fast, cheap, easy, or fake.
And that was the GFree Radio Show with Peter Stewart. And you. Thanks for listening. And remember, until next time, be good, be healthy, and be GFree.